Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully, everybody's having an incredible holiday. Today, we are diving deep into the psych of sales with a good friend of mine, Mr. Paul Ross, a master in the art of persuasion, who's going to reveal how to align your mind to unlock the true potential of your sales powers. A little bit about Paul. He's an author, a speaker, a trainer, a master hypnotist, and a master practitioner of NLP, known as neuro-linguistic programming, and an in-demand sales coach. For the last 30 years, he taught tens of thousands of people the power of language to persuade, sell, heal, turning stumbling blocks into stepping stones and pain into passion. Ladies and gentlemen, with no further ado, on the stage, Paul Ross. What's up, my brother Paul?
Obrigado. Thank you, my friend. And I just want to say happy Hanukkah, Chag Sameach to all my fellow members of the Jewish tribe. And I'm just so honored to be here and to be sharing these secrets of subconscious persuasion and sales.
Yes, happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, happy holidays, happy whatever everybody's out there celebrating. It's, man, I'm just super excited, Paul, for this. As you and I, man, we've been teaching, sales and doing workshops for companies for decades. And it's a topic that a lot of people struggle with. You'd be surprised, Paul. I have guru and very influential people that have hundreds of millions and billions of views on YouTube. And even them, to this day, when it comes down to sell their high-end programs, the high-end consulting from the stage, from interviews and webinars, they still struggle. And if the gurus and some of the highest performing paid folks out there still struggle a little bit of the imposter syndrome, insecurity, the little cold in the belly that comes from sales when it comes down to hit them, imagine the rest of society, right? And that's why we've seen so many businesses going under. I seen like thousands and thousands of coaches and consultants, people that are doing masterminds and retreats, literally shutting down their business and going back to work to a 9 to 5. And you and I know all that it takes to really be back in business is mastering the art of public speaking, of communicating, of those unconscious patterns and the word patterns that we use, sales persuasion, and many of the strategies and techniques that you learned over the years that I learned. We had a great show the other day on your show where I was sharing some great tactics. And I'm excited to have you here today on my show where we can have this talk. And Paul, let's start with, what is one thing you are actually always selling, regardless of the industry?
Sure. So one of the things that people need to understand is you're never selling your product or service, Carlos. You're always selling decisions and good feelings about decisions. And what distills out of that understanding is that decisions are primarily made on the unconscious or subconscious level. Now, I use those terms interchangeably because I'm a hypnotist. And you cannot appeal to the unconscious or subconscious through facts, data, figures. You have to use the power of suggestion, because here's the number one rule. Whatever you can get your prospects to imagine for themselves will be perceived by them as being their own thought, and therefore they will not resist it. And so the question is, how do we go about doing that artfully, skillfully, and in a way that offers more choices, that expands our prospects' belief in what they deserve, what they can have, what they can enjoy in their lives? Because when you do that, sales becomes heroic. You are being a hero and being a healer when you can get people to believe that they deserve more in their lives.
Yes, no, I love that. I love that. I was just doing an interview earlier today, and I was talking about how powerful it is for us to really master our ability to tell stories. And for some of you that are out there speaking, record yourself 5, 10, 15 minutes and go very deep into your signature talk and really watch it with a critical mind. Run it by people like Paul, like myself, anybody that you respect out there that's been in the game for a long time, and get real feedback on your signature talk. Make sure that when you are sharing those stories, they really resonate on a very deep emotional level. Because guess what, ladies and gentlemen, since we are having a conversation here today, a roundtable between Paul and I about sales, people buy you before they buy your solution. It's very important that we really understand that. People normally they say that, but you really have to understand that on a very deep emotional level when you are sharing your stories so that it can connect. You must connect the dots. If your sales are tanking, if you are not able to sell your membership programs, your masterminds, your retreats, the dots are not connecting it. You are not connecting the dots. You've been like everybody else on social media using GPT, and like you fall into the sea of sameness. And the sea of sameness, it's not going to bring you revenue. It's going to do nothing but frustrate you. And it's going to bring you back to exiting your business that you dream about and going back to a 9 to 5 that you don't like. That's real talk. And Paul, you mentioned throughout the years I know you, you mentioned 4 very powerful words that you mentioned. Hold on a second. See, even I got, and we're not going to edit it. But you mentioned 4 words that can establish rapport and trust instantly. You and I have many conversations about this. Can you share with the audience what are those 4 words?
Yes. So actually, there's 5. So those words are we, our, together, explore, and share. So may I unpack that for you, Carlos, and your audience?
Yes, sir. Please expand. Yes.
So typically, if someone's giving a sales presentation, they'll say, now, ladies and gentlemen, my name is so-and-so. They'll tell a little bit about who they are. And they'll say, and today we're going to talk about how my widget can increase your productivity by 30%, blah, 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 blah. But that's something I'm doing to my audience. I want to create the framework, the illusion, whatever you want to call it, that we're on the same side. So I would say something like this. Before we begin our exploration together today, let's look at those words. Before we, not I, we implies that we're together, that we have a relationship. Before we begin our exploration, you understand? Our again implies a relationship. Before we begin our exploration together, not I'm explaining this to you, but before we begin our exploration together. Now, there's a real tricky hypnotic word in there, exploration. This word has more hypnotic power. You will become a master hypnotist or be well on your way if you use this word and you understand it. And I'm going to explain why. Carlos, for every exploration, there must be a leader. And for every leader, there must be what? Starts with a letter F.
A follower.
Exactly. So when you use that word on the unconscious level, not consciously, on the unconscious level, the unconscious goes, oh, I am this person's follower. So even better than rapport, even better than they're trusting you, what if on the unconscious level, they believe deeply that they were your followers? So this goes beyond rapport into the realm of they're accepting the suggestion that they're your followers. But notice I didn't say directly. Carlos, if I said, as I speak with you today, you're going to perceive me as being your leader, and you are going to perceive yourself as being my follower, they'd tell me to get lost or jump off a short pier into a big ocean. But here's a key. When you imply something, when you're vague and you imply something and you don't make the message clear. See, I'm a contrarian. Everybody says make the message clear. And sometimes that's true. But there's a time, and please, ladies and gentlemen, this is a nugget you've got to get. There's a time in any effective sale, any effective persuasion, when you must be unclear, when you must be vague. Because when you're vague, The unconscious mind of your listener will fill in the blanks for itself. And remember my first rule, whatever you get your prospect to imagine for themselves as their own, thought will not be resisted. So before we begin our exploration together today, I just invite you to share, not ask, to please share the questions that naturally arise when a great decision is being made. So let me unpack that. Give me one more minute. I didn't say ask questions. What's the difference between asking questions and sharing questions? Which one implies a relationship?
You asking me, Paul?
Yes.
No, I'm telling you, I was going to tell in my mind, I was telling the audience to start typing here in the comments before I say it. So I often talk about the person that asks the questions is in control of the conversation, right? Influence, and when you listen to somebody, right? And I often use a framework I call LAT, listen more, ask more questions, tell me more, right? It's something that the FBI uses, CIA uses it when they are out there infiltrating groups. So I often teach it in frameworks. But to your point, go ahead and reframing the questions because I was literally processing everything over here,
No, I know. So when I say share questions, sharing is something you do with someone you trust versus asking the questions. Please share the questions. And here's the killer bit. Here's the coup de grace, the stroke of the master. Please share the questions that naturally arise when a great decision is being made. Now, listen to this, ladies and gentlemen, Carlos. Did I say what the decision is? Did I say a great decision to buy my program? No, I left it deliberately vague. Am I saying who's going to make the decision? When? What the decision's about? Why? How it's going to be made? I left it vague. I left it unclear and even a little bit confusing. When you do that, and prior to that, previously to that, you'd made a chain of suggestions that from an unconscious level to view you through the framework of being their trusted leader, then the unconscious mind will go, oh, I'm going to make the decision to buy today. I don't say it directly. I didn't say a great decision to buy from me is being made. Again, I'm going to say it. Any super powered, superb, beautiful persuasion, active influence, sale, whatever, even seduction, because I'm from that background and we can discuss it.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to ask you a great question.
Okay, we'll get there. There's times to be specific and clear, and there's times to be vague. And when you know when to be specific and when to be vague and how to go back and forth between those, you become a master persuader, a master, Jedi level. Yoda, you are.
Man, I'm telling you, Paul, I'm really enjoying this as I'm over here thinking, guys. You guys often see me talking about, when I challenge you guys out there to grab the phone and you're going to record a 30-second, storyline, a short, and you start with the word imagine. And whether you are saying imagine with a smiley face like I am, or you just say imagine with a serious face, the mind doesn't know what to do but to wait. You're building curiosity. Like even when Paul say the word, we're going to talk about seduction here in a second. The moment that he said that, and I say, I had a great question for you. What do you think we are doing here? We're building that curiosity. What do you think the Netflix, HBO, Showtime, what do you think? I've done a lot of work with big companies out there, guys, Super Bowl commercials, and you have to really always think about whatever you do from the stage, from your webinars, from your posts, from your videos. When you are selling, when you are persuading, you want to leave them wanting more. Why do you think that they have that little clock on Netflix and HBO and Showtime? 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. And before the next episode, they leave you hanging, so you cannot wait. You cannot go nowhere. If you cannot pause it, you're not gonna go to the restroom. When you're watching that movie and you're hella into it and you want to go to the restroom and you're like, God, I can't. Think about what they are doing. Think about how they make movies and cartoons and how they got us programmed to watch television, right? Telling you to watch vision. You have to think about those elements. And that's the things that Paul and I want to get you guys to think strategically and think differently here. So in 2025, you can dominate the stage, dominate social media, and not be just like everybody else into the sea of sameness. You go through all these social media platforms, same old crap. Everybody teaching, here's the 3 secrets, you blah, blah, blah. And, here's how to improve my banner. Here's how to whatever. Like, no. People are tired of this shit. You wanted to be different. You wanted to master storytelling. You wanted to master leaving them wanting more. And then you want to build something that's going to really create lasting change for them. But Brother Paul, what is the first thing about a prospect one must consider to dramatically increase sales?
This is something that's so counterintuitive and that nobody teaches, I believe. The first thing you have to consider and create and ask is, what state of mind do I want my prospect to be in so they receive my message through that state of mind? Carlos, may I use a metaphor? May I take a moment to teach you a metaphor? So let's say I have a sheet of gold foil and I have a sheet of cardboard and I want to conduct electricity. This is not a trick question. Which one is going to conduct that electricity, the cardboard or the gold foil?
Mathematically speaking, the gold foil.
Exactly. So think of your prospect state of mind and your message to be the electricity. Do you want them in the cardboard states of being distracted, unfocused, not trusting themselves to make a good decision? Or do you want them to be the state of mind of being focused? Because remember, focus is the currency of any kind of sale, any kind of persuasion, influence, seduction, anything. You've got to grab focus. So the question is, what state of mind do I want them in? Do I want them focused? Do I want them curious? And most importantly, Carlos, and no one else teaches this, do I want them in a state where they trust their own ability to make a good decision? Know, like, and trust is important. But nowadays, your prospect no longer trusts their own ability to make a great decision. So how can you get your prospect in the state of mind where on the unconscious level, they're convinced that they can make a great decision? Because it's not enough for them to trust you anymore. They also have to trust themselves. So how do I create those states of consciousness? And how do I do it quickly? Because we don't have 10 minutes to build rapport anymore. We were talking about this on my show the other day. I'm an old timer. You're a young man compared to me. I remember when YouTube ads were 90 seconds long. Can you imagine a YouTube ad 90 seconds long today? No one, so it's crazy. You don't have time to do this anymore the way you used to. So how can we create those states and do it rapidly through the power of suggestion? And you can't do it the way you used to. And if you're just like everybody else, then they're not going to pay attention either.
Yes. No, man, you got me there. We had a great show the other day. Really great show. We dropped some golden nuggets that the most people charge tens of thousands of dollars. See, guys, what did I just do here, right? Again, created curiosity. Now you're like, okay, where is Paul's shows? Hey, Paul, can you let them know what is the name of your podcast?
Sure. Oh, I will. It's called The Influencer's Edge. And Carlos, I found out 3 weeks ago, we are ranked in the top 10% globally for sales and business, which is great. Thank you to my team and thank you to my audience for guests like you. We've had Richard Bandler, the guy who co-created NLP on the show.
Yeah, I'm a shout out to my brother Rich, the legend. Rich was
the legend, the OG. Tony learned from him. Tony
Robbins, Robert Kiyosaki, Les Brown, all the legends learned from him. Just to give you guys an idea, for some of you guys that don't know who Richard Bandler is, Richard was business partner with one of my best friends. She passed away, unfortunately, Jean Laborde. She was the godmother of influence, NLP, leadership. She would, the way she comes from the era of the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, where she would have called companies IBM and say, hey, send me 7, 10 executives and they would come to her business, and she would spend 3 to 5 days. She's in Palo Alto in Silicon Valley, and she would teach them the art and mastery of leadership, NLP, and a bunch of other cool stuff. Her and I, we were like farmers. We were talking on Paul's show, a little story. I'll leave the story on how she was pissed off at Tony Robbins and at Bandler for not doing something. And I'm not going to tell you guys the rest of the story. You're going to have to listen.
By the way, Carlos, I have a question for you. Carlos, do you think Tony Robbins knows who I am?
If I think, I believe so. A lot of do you know a lot of the gurus, man, and the influencers, they know the people they are doing great things out there. You know, the other day we were on a Zoom, you know, and we were thousands of people there. Gary Vee was there, I was there, and then Gary was like, "Oh yeah, you guys know my boy Carlos Inspire? I know Carlos Inspire. I follow Carlos Inspire. Why? It's because Carlos Inspire happens to be my social media brand on Instagram and TikTok, and I'm always putting inspirational messages, powerful motivational messages that creates lasting change. And my whole idea around the brand was to know when companies were looking for an inspirational, motivational speaker and decision organizers, I wanted them to think about me first. And this is something that I want you guys to think about. What is that one word or a color, a team to your brand, to your name, that when people think about, they think about you first, right? I wanted to be known for those words about sales and marketing, right? Done over $1 billion in sales for Comcast, AT&T. So when sales trainers and sales leaders and VPs and CEOs of companies are struggling with their sales, when I'm speaking so often at industry stages, I wanted them to think about me first when it comes to that sales trainer. So those are some of the strategies that I want you guys to think about, you know, before going back to your question here, Paul, because it's actually a teaching point. I want you guys to think about this. You know, I often say your competitors are fishing in the same pond. I say you go out there, my friends, and you build your own ocean. What is your superpower? What is that one thing that when people, your ideal audience, that person that's struggling with their pain, something they seek, they have, and they don't know how to fix it, that you can solve it with your superpowers? What is that one thing for you? What is that one word? So that when people like Gary Vee or Tony Robbins, when they see us, they hear our names and other avatars out there, whoever your avatar is. So when they think about that problem, I wanted them to think about you guys first. All right, Brother Paul. So tell me about Mr. Tony Robbins. Why did you ask me that question?
I'm just curious because I'll tell you why I asked. Because 20 years ago, I had a brief, let's say, dating relationship, fling, or whatever, with someone who was in charge of one of his top sales teams. So she thought, this guy doesn't look anything like my type. He's really, really nothing at all. But I managed to, you know, do a deed with him. He convinced me, let's see if he can do anything with Tony's sales team. So I did go in and train them in seductive selling. And and apparently they did quite well. I was curious if the chain of command brought it up all the way up to Tony that I had trained some of his team.
I bet you he does, man. Tony, he's very involved. Tony, he's so strategically and tactical. I don't know if you guys know, for some of you guys that attend his events like UPW, Unleash the Power Within, or Date with Destiny, one of my favorite events, he's so tactical about it. He has a whole playbook, like literally minute by minute, every single thing that's happening on these events, from the sounds, the strategic interventions, and a lot of people, they fill in applications and questionnaires to attend his events, and they tell their stories, what they struggle with, if they're suicidal, if they've been through a rape or something very bad. And so what Tony does, you know, he look at some of these stories, and then he does strategic interventions, right? He have people raise their hands, you know, it's thousands of people in a building, and then in real time, okay, let's talk about it. You're suicidal, you want to kill yourself? Tell me why. And then he does an intervention in real time, taking the person from suicidal to non-suicidal, or taking a couple that's thinking about breaking up into uniting forces again. And this shit is done in real time.
I've done it myself.
For real. I've been through many people that taught Tony, they taught me, I went to them to learn, and I've been through Tony's pretty much every single thing that he done. And I learned myself to help some of my family members and some loved ones that didn't want to see anybody anymore. So that's how deep.
Carlos, if I can take a 50-year-old guy who's a virgin and has never had a date in his life and turn him into a stud in 90 days, I could do some serious change in healing work. Trust me.
I'm telling you, Brother Paul. I'm telling you, Brother Paul, speaking of dating and seduction, man, I know. How does one go from a seduction coach into now a leadership coach, an author, a successful speaker like yourself, sales trainer? How somebody goes from a seduction into
by the way,
sales
can
training?
you see who that is in the picture right there? It's clear who that is. That's Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise played me in the movie Magnolia, and he got a Golden Globe for doing so. Here's the story. So here's the story of how this happened. So I got into seduction because I was so clueless and geeky and nerdy and unattractive to women that I could not get a lady in a woman's prison with a fistful of pardons. Like, I was bad. And so when I booked into Richard Bandler in NLP back in the 80s, around mid to late 80s, it blew my mind. I thought, this is my solution to my lack of self-esteem. And I learned to communicate. I thought, okay, here's this NLP model for influence and this NLP model for healing. How can I extract that and turn it into a model for seduction? And that was very successful. And then around 2005, I started getting emails from guys saying, thank you very much. Here's pictures of my family and my kids. I wouldn't have been able to do it without you. By the way, I've been using your stuff for sales, and my sales are up 500% using your seduction stuff. I thought, Paul, you fool, why don't you map it all over into sales? Because sales is a seduction. If you think about it, look,
card, right?
you've got to do your prospecting. You've got to do your qualifying questions. Oh, you have to create rapport. Do your qualifying questions. Find out what their needs, desires, pain points are. You have to do your trial close. You have to overcome objections. And then hopefully you get referrals. So I took a year off of doing all of my work, and I mapped this over into selling. And I started training people. I trained people I knew, people who call me on the phone trying to sell me stuff. I would turn around and sell them. I said, let me talk to the guy who runs your biz. And I would sell them. I would seduce them into hiring me to train them. So that's how I got into it. And I love it.
I love it, brother. I love it, man. You know, man, you make me going back in time. Even speaking about going back in time, you remind me of, what's his name from Back into the Future? You remind me of here, Professor Lloyd.
I've heard that before.
Hey, Paul, you are actually making me think over here, man, and self-reflect. You know, I want to ask you a question about counter examples and overcoming objections in a second. But, you know, as you're talking, I was also thinking about, you know, your ability, guys, to demonstrate. Like, here's a massive pro tip for all the speakers out there. You know, I want you guys, whenever you're speaking on a stage anywhere, demonstrate. Pick up your phone, hit the live button, record a 30-second, 1-minute clip on you on the stage. Turn towards the audience. Ask the audience, how are they feeling? And how are they liking you speaking? Because guess what? Now you are showing things in real time, demonstrating. Like, I often talk about how I help celebrities and athletes and this and that, and I work with all these companies. What I often do, Paul, when allowed, I take videos from the stage and I demonstrate it. And I will show, because guess what? There's also a teaching moment from the audience. I'm showing them how to demonstrate something in real time. What happening there? You're showing social proof, confidence. You know, what if they don't like it? Now you're on camera, especially if you're on live. Like right now, we're recording this show live. This is not scripted. Yes, I think about some of the questions and some of the things I want to ask you about sales, but we are going back and forth over here into things, you know, like earlier. My throat got stuck, and I said, I'm not going to edit it because you guys know me. I don't care. You know, we just go with the flow. But again, this is so important. Show, don't tell, guys. You know what I mean? Have a habit. Go live on social media platforms, interviewing somebody like we are doing over here with Paul and I. Just because we are successful podcast hosts and show hosts and speakers and trainers, but when we started, we suck at it. You know, I bet you Paul and I, we can look at
always good. No. With all due respect, I was always good because I grew up in a nice Jewish family, and we were all encouraged to debate and talk. And I could say anything to my mother, and I never got punished. My mother would say, okay, I want you to give me a book report. I would say at the dinner table, Mom, I'm a communist. Rather than yell at me, she would say, I want a book report on communism. What do communists believe? And we were poor. We were middle class to poor, but we always had money for books. And Jewish families, scholarship is very important. And so I would get the encyclopedia and pull it down, and I would work all night to get a good book report. Because if I got a good book report, my mother would give me a silver dollar. This is back when you actually had real silver and gold for money. And if I didn't get a good book report, then I had to stay inside and I couldn't watch TV. And so I couldn't watch TV. So I would get a book and read it right in front of my mother. And I'd say, this book is so good. Now, a Jewish mother would never take a book away from her son. And I'd watch my mother get fuming mad. But the point is, I've always been a good speaker because I had to speak up at the dinner table. I had 5 siblings to compete with, all very bright. So I'm just making an exception. I don't mean to come across as arrogant.
Wow. I get it, especially when you have that many brothers and sisters, and the competition is real. No, brother. Now I'm with you, my friend. But Paul, tell me something. Can you explain what counter examples are and how they helping overcoming objections? A lot of people here, they are in sales, they go through their Zoom calls and sales calls, and they are selling their coaching programs. They're selling from the stage, their webinars, their posts, and all the things and the above. So can you go deep into sharing with us here what are counter examples and how they help in overcoming objections?
Carlos, when I go in and I train sales teams or I train my VIP CEOs and the rest of it, or my group coaching programs, this is my favorite thing to train. This is fun. This is the cool SHI_T. So here's the idea behind counter examples. This is all about breaking rapport, shocking people, and creating a temporary window of suggestion. See, when you break a person's pattern and their pattern of expectation, they don't know what to do consciously. You create a temporary, small, hypnotic trance, a window of suggestion through which you can guide them. So let's give a typical objection. The typical objection is, I need more time to think it over. You ever heard that one, ladies and gentlemen? Here's what I say. So, Carlos, role play. Just say to me, I need more time to think it over.
I need more time to think it over.
I understand. Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Have you ever taken a long time to think something over and it still turned out to be a terrible decision?
Yeah.
Maybe it's not about time, but about the clarity you need to recognize. It's safe to move forward today. So thinking about it like that, what do we really need to clear up for you to recognize a great decision's being made? So I totally shock them by giving them an example of where the objection actually caused pain. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. And for you guys listening to us, type in above if you have any questions, your comments, your likes, your follow are highly appreciated. As you guys know, the carlosinspireshow.com is free. Our goals are to bring the best and the brightest leaders in the world, in their field, like Paul, to come over here and share their tactics, share their strategies, so you guys can go out there and creating a massive impact. Because you, my friend, listening to us or watching us, deserve more. We wanted to give you more. Go ahead, Brother Paul. Continue, my friend. Really enjoying this conversation. And I hope you guys are. Let us know below if you are enjoying this conversation and if we bring Paul back in 2026, as we love bringing our guests back every year and to showcase their awesomeness.
Yeah.
No.
So
go ahead, continue, Paul.
If I can. So when you shock people and you temporarily put their mind on hold, they become very, very suggestible. They become very, very leadable. Here's another example. I taught this to realtors. One of the big things realtors used to get is, I don't want to pay a big commission. So I taught my realtors to say, well, that's because because you've yet to understand with the right person, you're not paying a commission, you're investing in skills. Maybe you'll get lucky on your own, but do you really want to gamble with the most important asset of your life, your home? So now I'm totally shocking them and I'm reframing it. It's not about paying a commission, you're investing in skills. And then I'm reframing it that if they do it on their own, they're going to be gambling. Now, I didn't say it directly. I didn't say, hey, if you do it on your own, you're going to lose money. If I'd said that directly, they'd give me the middle finger. Again,
all right, they're going to be defensive. They're like,
I use the power. I combine the power of putting them in a state of hypnotic suggestion with implying things. Whatever you can imply, the unconscious mind will interpret the way you want it to. There's also something as a hypnotist I must share called the law of compound suggestion, which simply says that each suggestion adds to and multiplies the power of the previous one and sets up the power of the next one. So anyone can learn to do this. Anyone. I teach this all the time. It's amazing how quickly you can now grasp just how important this is for you in all the ways you can stop and imagine for yourself a time in the future, say maybe just 90 days from now, enjoying all the benefits of this and looking back on this moment with Carlos and I as having been the start of that. Now there, I just did another hypnotic phenomena called pseudo-orientation in time, where I get the prospect to imagine already having made a decision, imagining the benefits. I didn't say what the benefits are. I left it vague, so they interpret it. And I had them imagine the present being the past. It's very, very tricky. You can learn the power of a master hypnotist with just a little bit of training with me. And Carlos, I have a secret agenda, a secret ulterior motive. I'm going to reveal it to you and your audience today. I want your audience and everyone I teach and speak to fall madly in love with language. I am in love with language. Carlos, you're a man of faith. What does scripture say? In the beginning was the word.
Yes. I was thinking about you are referring to the beginning of most Bibles, which is let there be light.
No. In the beginning was the word.
Yeah.
You understand? That's the recognition of the power of language. Whatever you believe, I respect every faith, or if you don't have faith. But even people back then recognized the power of language to structure consciousness, shape decisions, and drive behaviors. I'm telling you this, if you don't use your words with deliberateness and skill, your prospects will default back to their states of fear, of doubting themselves, being unfocused. If you don't do this, your prospects will automatically fall back into their old patterns. Our job as true persuaders is to heal. I truly believe that when you sell in the right way, you are a healer because you're removing your prospects' fear. You're removing the lack of believing in themselves. And most importantly, you're removing their belief that they don't deserve the progress, the possibility, the dream that you're offering them, the transformation. Never underestimate your prospects' lack of deservingness. They're feeling that they don't deserve what you have. Don't underestimate that as one of your number one blockers, one of your number one things that compete with a successful sale. And your language to overcome that, to heal your prospects' limited belief in what they deserve, you are healing. I truly teach everyone who walks through my door, whether it's a VIP who's paying me multiple six figures, or whether someone who's buying just an introductory program or just something for free in my books. I truly believe that when you do sales this way, you are a healer. Now, how can you fear rejection if you're healing people? The rejection goes out the window because all you're doing, see, I never, ever really sell. I just extend opportunities to come on a journey with me to heal your lack of belief in yourself and to take the step of believing in yourself and getting into the transformation that I offer. And ultimately, people like you, Carlos, you don't just inspire. you also heal because you inspire in a way where people overcome their limiting beliefs about themselves. That's therapeutic. That's healing. So I want to shout out to you, my dear friend, and really put on the table for you that you're not just inspiring, you are healing. And to everyone out there who thinks selling has to be sleazy or that selling is the wrong thing, how does everything now change as you stop, take a breath, and joyfully recognize on the deepest levels of your heart and soul that in fact you are a healer? Say it now and say it loud. I am a sales hero and healer, and I'm proud.
Say it. I am a sales healer and I am proud. Say it again, my brother Paul. That is so true, my friend. It's so true. Think about it. And just for a second, guys, you guys have a superpower. You have a message. You have greatness within you. So just imagine every single thing that you overcame in this last 10, 20 years. And that is that 10-year, 20-year younger version than you right now. Out of 7, 8 billion people, whatever number of people are out there, people have different theories about those numbers. But let's just call it 7 billion humans out there. Imagine out of those 7 billions, how many of them, a few dozen, a few hundred, that could be looking for you right now. And just by you listening to the show again, listening to the replay, taking notes, mastering the art of persuasion, of selling, of speaking, of being on more stages, things that Paul, myself, and many others teach out there, and literally going deep into this process, it can change your entire life. You know what I mean? I often talk about virality isn't luck. It's science. It's understanding. Pro tip, before you post anything from now on, before you craft your next signature talk, before you hit that post recorded button and release a piece of content, ask yourself, would I stop and watch this post and read this post and watch this video? Would I engage? Would I comment? Would I share? Ask yourself these questions before you put those pieces of content, before you create the next signature talk. Would the audience think about me? Would they talk about it when they take their break throughout the events and they go into their breakouts and they're going for lunch? Which speaker would they be talking about? You see, guys, you wanted to be the one. As I said earlier, I don't know if it was on this podcast, and I've been in so many podcasts today, but pioneers make history, settlers pay rent. You are a pioneer. You deserve more. We wanted to give you more. And speaking about giving more, I want you guys to try this. Here's a little call to action that I want you guys to try it out throughout the holidays. I want you guys to post something right after the show throughout the day. Think about what Poe and I discuss, language patterns. For some of you guys that want to go even deeper, I have a freebie on my website, getonmorestages.com, a powerful PDF called the 7-Figure Word Patterns that creates, converts, and creates a buying frenzy. I screw it up. That connects, converts, and creates a buying frenzy. Listen, go through that PDF, re-listen to this episode. Now, take every strategy that Poe and I share here today and go out there and post something today or tomorrow. You can tag Poe and I. I'm Carlos Inspire on Instagram. Are you on Instagram a lot, Poe?
No, best way to reach me is my email. I answer every email. I don't put it through an assistant. I answer every email. I get lots of them, as you can imagine. I read every one. I answer every single one personally. So, by the way,
what is your email, Paul?
It's Paul@speakerpaulross.com. It's so easy to remember. Paul at speakerpaulross.com.
Speakerpaulross.com.
If as you stop and for whatever mysterious reason that makes sense to you, you're thinking, I want more Paul, whether that's because you're a VIP and you want these secrets put into your team's sales DNA, or whether you've got you're a VIP who wants to use these secrets to become a massive leader, or even if you're just a lady who thinks my brilliance is incredibly attractive, I'll answer every email. So just email me, Paul.
Paul at speakerpaulross.com. You see, guys, Paul, I'm telling you, he's going to take you back to the future with more excitement and awesomeness. But right back to my point here earlier, I want you guys to tag me at Carlos Inspire on Instagram, and you're going to ask this question before you put that piece of content out. Would this make my audience feel something strong enough to share? You see, when you listen back to this episode, when you go and you read my 7-figure word patterns to connect, convert, and create a buying frenzy, you now is going to make you just that pausing alone. You know, it's almost like you're going to get into a fight, an argument with your spouse. You already know the power of the pause, right? That pause, that breather. It will save you a lot of time. There's a secret of being married for almost 18 years. Shout out to my amazing wife. I'll be celebrating a few days, 18 years together. I love you, Angie. She's not a camera or a social media person. She's very secretly, which I respect that. But my point is, I want to challenge you guys. I want you guys to get creative. We often see people out there giving advice on virality, on this and that. Mr. Beast often talking about, you wanted to triple your views, just have better idea. Okay, it's easy to say, Mr. Beast. However, I want to amp one up on Mr. Beast. What is your idea creation process? What is the thought process that you put into your idea creation? Who are you surrounding with? Which barbershop are you hanging around? Because when you hang around on Carlos on Paul's barbershop, you're going to get a nice haircut. And you're going to be having very cool tools into your tool belt that now your idea creation process becomes very tactical. Like I said earlier, virality isn't luck, it's science. It's really having that thought process, applying some of the things that Paul teach, that I teach. Many of the people out there, there are some great people out there that teach this. But you got to invest yourself. You got to invest time. You got to put yourself in the environment. You got to email them, speakerpaul.com, right? Look at that great flow.
Paul, it's Paul at speakerpaulross.com.
Paul at speakerpaulross.com. But you see what I'm doing here, right? We're having fun. We're being playful, right? I'm bringing it back, reframing, and we are teaching. You guys know how I am, right? On this podcast, we extract the greatness out of our guests. I like teaching. We're having fun together. You make it interactive. You educate to dominate. This is not just a podcast. I'm going to listen and blah, blah, blah. You're not going to listen. Look at the amount of nuggets. I want you guys to tag somebody right now, whatever you are on Facebook, LinkedIn, on Twitter. Tag someone here right now that needs to listen to this today. Some of you guys know, maybe you know somebody incredible like Paul that has a powerful message and story. Not that many like Professor Paul Ross, but if you know somebody that's awesome, has great stories, has great strategies to teach, maybe that's you listening or watching me now. PM me, message me, or whatever social media platform, podcast, interview. Let's talk. I want to hear about your story, your brand. Send me your speaker one sheet. Send me your sizzle reel. I want to take a look at it. I'm always looking for incredible guests. I'm always doing special campaigns. You guys know I'm constantly, not just on holidays, throughout the year, raising money to help feeding people on the streets, veterans, women selling tamales and strawberries with their children. I have a lot of initiatives in US and Brazil that I do that. So maybe if you guys wanted to be on the show, name your price. I have a name your price campaign. But before that, I need to hear your story. Send me your speaker one sheet, your sizzle reel. Tell me a little bit about you, and we will talk about it to see if you are a fit for the show. And back to the show, Mr. Paul Ross. Hey, Paul. In your book, The Subconscious Sales Advantage, you talk about implanting suggestions, which we discuss. But is this something accessible for everyone? I know the answer to the question, but the people listening to us, or does it require NLP training, or this is something accessible to anybody that's struggling right now? They can learn it, they can apply it, and they can succeed. Can you elaborate and expand a little bit about it?
It is easy, and it's fun, and it's powerful. Now, in the beginning, I'll admit something. Let me make an admission. It takes a little training and a little time to learn to think in this way. But again, I pride myself on being a great teacher. My mother was a fantastic teacher to me, and she told me one day, she said, Paul, I didn't have you for me. I had you for the world. And one day you'll do great things, which is a great message to give a kid.
Yeah.
And so when I teach it in a way so it's easy to use. So it simply works like this. I think to myself, what is the frame of mind I want that person in? And secondly, what direction do I want their mind to go? So it's easy. If, for example, Carlos, I wanted you to be in a state of focus, or your audience, and I was addressing you in a corporate board meeting or a sales training, I would say, as we begin this exploration together, I don't know all the places you might stop and feel a growing focus on what it is I'm saying. But as that takes place in a way that's naturally, easily, and wonderfully acted upon by you, I just want to say I'm so grateful to be sharing this exploration of these wonderful tools with you. Now, I gave a suggestion there. I gave a suggestion to become increasingly fascinated. I said growing fascination. I didn't say in a moment I'm going to hypnotize you and you will feel a growing fascination. I embedded it within the sentence. And so the unconscious mind heard it, not the conscious mind. When you get the basic principles that the unconscious mind is in the driver's seat and that you have to direct your communication to the unconscious mind, then the techniques are easy. Usually I can train people to do this in a matter of, if it's individual, in a matter of like 30 to 60 days. If it's a group, it may or may not take longer. But the most important thing is keep in mind, this is fun, this is powerful, and it has an incredible impact. I'll say it again. I'll say a kind of intellectual egghead thing. Your words, your language, structure consciousness, shape decisions, and drive behavior. If you do not use your words with deliberateness, precision, not just passion. Everyone talks about passion, but you have to have precision. Then your prospect is going to automatically default into the way they naturally think. Again, I learned this from seduction. I'm going to take a trip back to seduction. Okay, here's how, but I have to do it. So if I'm having a nice conversation, back when I was just learning this and I was having a conversation with a woman, I would get, sorry, I have a boyfriend. Now, I would think to myself, well, I can't argue with her. And so here's what I came up with, Carlos. I would say, now, Debbie, you don't need to convince me someone else finds you attractive. That's not how I make up my mind about you. So it was a complete reframe. But within there was a suggestion. The suggestion was, oh, Debbie wants me, and she's trying to convince me to give her what she wants, instead of the frame being, oh, please, Debbie, give me a date. And she's giving me the boyfriend thing. So here's my point. My point is, this can be fun. This can be enjoyable. And I mean no disrespect to women. Listen, this is just a way of having fun and being playful with people. Ultimately, if the decision doesn't serve people, then I don't want them to make it in my favor. But it's a playful way to no longer think of rejection. I never get rejected. And the people I train get it. You never get rejected. You only discover that people are in a place where they're willing and ready to take the opportunity that you're extending. I never get rejected. I only ever discover whether that prospect, that audience is ready to transform because they believe that they deserve it and they can stop. And imagine the future, say months from now, or even just weeks, and all the things that will flow from you as you think to yourself, I need Paul. I need more Paul right now. And you find yourself naturally and easily shooting an email to Paul at speakerpaulross.com.
Oh, I love it. You see, guys, you got to learn from the master. I'm telling you, he's great at this thing. I'm telling you, but you see, you got to pay attention, right? You see exactly you guys see me talking about this all the time. The life that we live is based upon the things that we preach. You watching Paul with him real time, demonstrating, sharing his awesomeness in real time. And I love it. I often tell, words can build empires. What's stopping yours? And Brother Pope, man, I know that we're getting close to the hour here, but I have a few more questions over here that I know you guys will love it.
Yeah.
And that will help some of you guys listening here. So we'll keep it going. We'll break my own rules of command, which is stopping the show at an hour. And Pope, you discuss language stoking emotion in your book. Can you elaborate on this technique?
Yes. So again, Carlos, people make decisions mostly for emotional reasons. So if I want someone to feel fascinated by me, if I want someone to feel attracted to me, I'm not going to say, in a moment, I'm going to give you the hypnotic suggestion. And when I say the word elephant, you're going to feel an unbelievable attraction to me. I can't do that. But if I say something like, as you naturally and easily find yourself growing more and more aware of just some of the reasons, you can just stop and think to yourself, this connection with Paul is amazing. I really, really want more. I can't be the one to say why that's happening now. You're the only one who can naturally discover for yourself that it feels so good that that's what's taking place. Now, did I say anything specific? Did I say why you're going to feel the fascination? Why you're going to feel that you want more? Why any of it? No, I kept it vague and I implanted suggestion, but I created emotions. What emotions did I create? I created focus. I created desire for more. I created the compulsion to connect with me, all through the power of words shaping emotions. Again, I'm going to come back to that teaching example and bless my mother's memory, as we say in the Jewish faith, may her memory be for a blessing. My mother taught me to be a great teacher and unpack what I teach. So I'll say it again. This comes back to that one main principle. Whatever you get your prospect to imagine for themselves will be perceived by them as being their own thought, their own emotion, their own compulsion. So use suggestion, use being vague, use words like imagine, picture, recognize. These are what we call presuppositions of awareness. I don't want to get into NLP jargon. I can teach NLP powerfully, but I don't like the jargon because people don't like the technical terms. I teach it practically. And again, I learned this when I was teaching seduction to 30, 40, 50-year-old virgins. They didn't have time to absorb a vocabulary. They just needed the skill sets to talk to women. And I want to say again, I love and respect ladies. And the most important thing is these guys sent me so many hundreds, countless emails of pictures of them with their families, their kids, and said, thank you. Without these skills, I never would have got there. But here's an example of marketing. I had to use the marketing that appealed to my audience. I couldn't call it, if I called it emotional engineering through the power of unconscious connection, no one would have bought it. Just like Eckhart Tolle. I don't know if you've ever had Eckhart Tolle on your stage. He wrote a book called The Power of Now. What if he had called that book Mastering Mindfulness for Communication, Connection, and Peace of Mind? No one would have bought it. So I had to call what I did speed seduction. It says in 2 Galatians chapter 9, verse 22, I became as all men, all people, so I may save some. Now, I'm not saving anybody. I'm just a person, but I am persuading people. I am transforming. You have to speak to people in the language that they understand, in the way that's going to grab their attention. And this is why you have to be special on stage. This is why what Carlos teaches so important. Listen to Carlos, because you do have to be able to tell your own story. What stands out about you? What's your superpower that's going to pull in your tribe? Don't try to appeal to everybody, because then you don't stand out. Have the courage. You see, in order to execute anything that I say, that Carlos says, that any powerful teacher says, you have to have courage. Courage gives you the clarity, to see what it is you need to communicate. So courage, clarity, communication. I like to use letters, alliteration, courage, clarity, communication. And courage just comes down to stepping outside your conceptual zone. People like to say stepping outside your comfort zone. I like to say step outside your conceptual zone. Step outside your box that says you can't do something or it has to be a certain way. I like to tell people I train today, we're going to disconnect the dots, think outside the box, and color outside the lines. I keep coming back to my mom because for some reason her memory is really hitting me strong in my heart today. My mom encouraged me to think outside the box, and literally I would color on the walls. I got punished for that. But that permission, giving yourself that permission to think outside your conceptual zone, that's going to give you the courage that will give you the clarity to come up with your unique communication.
God bless your mother, my brother. It's something that I learned so much
bless
from my grandma. My grandma was my mom as well as she raised me. And, she was a housekeeper. She cleaned up house of professors. And she's always listened to them when they were in the kitchen on the round table. She was sweeping around them, but she was taking it in. She was listening to the books they were reading, taking some of these books home and passing it on, that wisdom.
Carlos, just one thing. No knock on my father. My father was my hero. He was a war hero. I have these medals in my living room, over a dozen medals. He fought the Nazis in World War II barehanded. He was a medic. Wow. He was not allowed to carry a gun. And he was
true legend.
like 500 feet away from the most horrible evil in the world, Nazis firing machine guns and throwing grenades at him. But he never, ever ran away from his duty. That's what he taught me. He taught me courage under fire. My father, towards the end of his life, when he was dying, I was with him when he passed. If you want to learn a lesson, be with a loved one when they pass from this life, and you see how short life is. And when he was very, very sick and very weak, I said, Dad, did you ever think of running away from working to support 6 kids and all the things you went through? And suddenly, Carlos, he came back to life. He pulled himself up from the bed and looked at me and said, never. I would never abandon my family. If I had the strength, I would do it again. My father taught me never to run away from your duty. Do your duty no matter what. So I don't want to make this just about my mom. My dad gave me the courage to endure and to heal and to rise up from failure. I have had so many setbacks in my journey. I'm going to be vulnerable with everybody. I had the bipolar experience. I have bipolar. I had come close to suicide. I put myself in an institution for 3 days. I came within 3 weeks of killing myself. But it was that endurance, that resilience that my father passed on to me, I think genetically, that enabled me to rise up from so many things. And I do speak out about bipolar because I do have a voice and people respect me. And this is sort of taking a sidetrack, and I'm sorry if I'm sidetracking you, Carlos, or your audience.
I love it, Bo. I love it. Yeah. Somebody listening to hear it this way now. Yeah.
If you are struggling with any kind of mental injury, I don't like the word illness, but injury, whether it's bipolar or depression or whatever it is, there's hope for you. There's hope for you. There's healing for you. Please, please, please reach out. Your life matters. You don't know the hole that you will leave in the lives of so many people if you should go. So please, please reach out for help. I was in the lowest possible place. I was writing suicide notes in my head, but then I thought, no one wants to hear what I have to say, so why bother? That's how low I got. And I rose up because of the resilience my father taught me, and because of the help my family extended to me, and because I had the courage to reach out. So I don't know why I'm taking that turn. I'm getting emotional here, but I just want to reach out to people and let them know this is one of the things I advocate for.
But I love it that you are sharing and being vulnerable about, because I often love sharing those things from time to time as well on the show. And I know that somebody out there right now needed to hear this message. I know that you guys listening here, you might have a loved one, somebody that you've been maybe meant to call for a while and having a difficult conversation. Pick up the phone, make that call, have that conversation. Text somebody here that might be dealing with mental health. Tell them if they don't want to listen to the whole thing and learn about sales and techniques and strategies, fast forward to 1 hour and 1 minute and listening to the last final words over here that Paul and I are talking about. Because like Paul said, man, it's whenever we face it, that one thing that we are avoiding, we all know our flaws. We all know the demons that we battle with. I wrote that letter when I was 6.5 years old. I was going to stab myself. You guys know my story. For some of you guys that don't, you keep listening to the show, go back to the beginning, early episodes, so you can read my book. Great plug, Work Like an Immigrant. A lot about mindset, strategies, leadership, a lot of great things in that book. It's like a walking, living Bible. And, it's like you just deal with it. It's like Paul was saying, and like you guys often see me talking about, dealing with those demons, stopping, looking the demon, the devil in the eyes and say, I'm going for it. And just draw a line in the sand. Enough is enough. No more imposter syndrome. No more, this self-identity, these things that we create, or the words that we tell ourselves 80-90% of the day, those conversations, those whispers. You wouldn't talk like that to your best friend.
No.
You wouldn't talk like that to your loved one.
No.
But again, you got to reach out, like Paul's saying. Paul went in and reached out. He went in and he asked for help. Just get out there, ask for help. Just go for it, my friend. Go for it. You hear his stories, day in and day out, of so many people. They overcome some real struggles and darkness. And they come out better on the other side. And Brother Paul, wow, what a great episode, man. As one of the last questions of the show is 50 years from now, you are 110 years old. And it's your eulogy. Your best friends will be there. Your loved ones are going to be there. One of your closest best friends, loved ones, will be reading it. And he's going to say, or she, Paul Ross was ... In your own words, my friend, who was Paul Ross?
Paul Ross was the greatest teacher of my life. A man with a heart of gold, mind as sharp as a diamond, and a spirit that had the courage to step outside his own fear and to move people with a passion until he drew his last breath. That's what I would say.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. My friend, Paul Ross. Hey, Paul, I appreciate you on the show. I see that you guys love it. I appreciate all the likes, the comments. You guys know, ladies and gentlemen, drop us a follow. Go on Carlos Inspire Show on your favorite social media podcast platform, Apple, Alexa, Spotify. For you guys with the smart home, say, Alexa, play the Carlos Inspire Show. And, so get out there. I appreciate you guys. If you could do me a huge favor, go on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Alexa, click in 5 stars, drop a review, follow us, turn on the bell on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and every social media platform that has a bell in the settings to follow us every time we drop an episode, a post, some teaching. We're going to continue bringing the best and the brightest on the podcasts, on the posts, on the training. We're going to continue raising the bar. You guys know how we roll. Educate to dominate. Success isn't one viral post. It's showing up when no one else does. It's doing what others don't, what others won't, and keep rocking and rolling. Brother Poe, any last words before we close it out?
Yes. Again, well, one thing I will say, what is today's date? It's the 27th.
Today's the 27th of December, 2024.
Okay. So I am booking. Yeah. I am booking for the second quarter of 2025 for doing trainings or speaking. So do get in touch with me. And again, you know what? I had asked you a question on my podcast. I said, could you be the success you are without your wife? And you clearly said, no way. Absolutely no way. So you know what, ladies? Here I am, Paul and Speaker Paul Ross.
Go listen to Paul's podcast, The Influencer's Edge. We had a great conversation. And oh, wow, that podcast will take that one to the grave. As you guys enjoy this show, wait until you listen to Paul Ross. podcast show. I appreciate you, Brother Paul. You guys know
Thank
the drill, ladies and gentlemen. Life is all about the mission, never the commission. And the days that breaks us are truly the days that makes us. God bless you all. Much love. Until the next time, let's freaking go.